If you look at the mainstream media today, you'd think that the only players that mattered in the last 40 years were Jordan,
back comes left wing, now down the lane, all the way for the two-hand slam.
Kobe,
Down to 5. Bryant goes to work. Bryant the drive. Oh!
LeBron,
15 seconds left. LeBron drives in. Oh my!
maybe Bird and Magic.
I wish we could compete against each other right now.
Well, you know what you could do is you can go out and buy a baseball team now.
But there have been nearly 4,300 players in league history. And in the midst of it all, there are stars who played at an all-star level for seasons that have been unfortunately forgotten. Okay, I don't want to throw around the term forgotten too loosely. None of these guys were completely forgotten. But the fact is, they aren't recognized nearly as much by the media, fans, or NBA community as a whole. Well, today, I'll be putting respect on the name of some of the all-stars of my favorite era, the 2010s. We're gonna look at what made these guys stand out, how good were their playing careers, actually, and why aren't they more relevant today? Some of these guys became stars in other leagues after the NBA, while others became YouTubers, competing with the likes of yours truly for the views. So yeah, let's see what happened to these former NBA all-stars. How good were they actually? And of course, where are they now? Okay, so remember how many guys played in league history? Yeah, this graph again. Well, only 50 of them have scored over 20,000 points in their career. Scroll down here and yeah, I'm using Wikipedia, but look at these guys. Most of them are either in the Hall of Fame already or will be as soon as they're eligible. And then there's LaMarcus Aldridge. Now, hear me out. I'm not saying Aldridge shouldn't be there. It's just that people never really talk about Aldridge being a Hall of Famer. Well, starting, he never won a chip. He only had a chance to compete for it in 2 or 3 seasons, one of which was at the end of his career. And he wasn't on the NBA 75 list, despite being a top 50 scorer in NBA history. Heck, even Basketball Reference gives him basically a 50-50 chance of making it. During Aldridge's career, it always felt that he was missing that little something to get him over the hurdle of becoming a superstar. But don't get it twisted, that man was a beast. When Aldridge came into the league, people still thought you needed to be a big man to win.
I was drafted in 2006. That's when big men were valued more. So KG, physical, I'm going up against Zach Randolph in practice, physical. So to me, it doesn't look physical because I've seen worse, I've played in worse, to me, are comparable.
So that was his play style. Back to the basket, great footwork, fundamentals. He was like a Tim Duncan light. Granted, he was never as good of a defender as Timmy, but the two of them had similar games. For instance, while he was strong, Aldridge wouldn't do much bully ball. Instead, he would back guys down, hit them with a fake, and then knock down jumpers with ease.
I just read the guard. If he curls to the lane and my man helps and I pop.
Aldridge was also pretty tall and also had a high release point. So defenders like KG, Ben Wallace, and yes, Timmy, didn't block his jump shot that often. And like Duncan, he didn't do too much talk on the court. He was one of those let his game speak for itself type of guys.
Does it bother guys that you don't show a whole lot of emotion? So if I'm playing against you, you don't change too much, do you?
I think people on the court might think differently. I definitely talk more on the court, whether it's to my teammates, to myself, or to my opponent if they're talking trash to me. So,
But who's talking trash to you?
Nobody anymore.
Well,
And he was like that from the beginning of his career. After being one of the top teams in the West, the Blazers fell on hard times. During the mid-2000s, the team was more known for its off-court issues than anything. Their best player, Zach Randolph, had, let's just say, his own issues during the period. LaMarcus and Brandon Roy, who were picked in the 2006 draft, were seen as the breath of fresh air. The two were relatively quiet, passionate, but calm on the court. Never got into arguments, scuffles, or fights. The complete opposite of the infamous Jailblazers. While I'm not saying LaMarcus doesn't have a great personality, look, I don't know the man. But from what I've seen on the court, he never really liked showing it. But as I said, Aldridge let his game do the talking. During his time with the Blazers, LaMarcus averaged over 19 points and 8 boards, and also was named an All-Star 4 years in a row, from 2012 to 2015. He still ranks 3rd all-time in Portland history in both points and field goals made. He joined the Spurs in the 2014 through 15 season. In 6 years under Pop, he made 3 more All-Star appearances and finished off his tenure with the organization as the 10th all-time scorer. In his prime, he had some insane performances, like when he opened the first round against the Rockets in 2014 with back-to-back 40-point performances.
That twist to the ankle. Tough young man. A lot to do with that. It's almost given away. Oh, for Thomas.
Or when he had 38 against OKC in the first game of the West Semis in 2016.
Their passing ability and
If the true point guard
and 41 in the second.
Bridge for three.
And while everything seemed to be going great for him, when he joined the Nets in 2020, that's when the real trouble started. See, back in his rookie season, Aldridge was diagnosed with a heart condition known as Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Its symptoms included a fast heartbeat, shortness of breath, and loss of consciousness.
We're feeling different.
Yeah, like you pass out. It's kind of weird. It's kind of like catch-22 because it's like as you get in better shape, symptoms get worse, which don't make sense, right? Because you're supposed to work out to get better, but it's kind of like, so my shit can slow down too much, like when I'm out of rhythm and I can pass out.
After getting the vaccine, his symptoms worsened. He felt an irregular heartbeat during the Nets-Bulls game that year, and it didn't stop after he got back home.
I was like, I gotta go home and like figure this shit out. So I go home to my doctor and he was like, I wouldn't risk it. Like, and he was like, I studied you when you were here for 5 years and I've never seen you do this shit. So he was like, you got kids, man. Like I wouldn't risk it. So
feeling uncertain about the conflicting advice, Aldridge made the difficult decision to retire from basketball to prioritize his health and family. Next season, with some help from his doctor, Aldridge tried coming back.
it was a long ass process, bro. Because, you know, at the NBA, they don't want you dying either, obviously, but they don't want that liability. So then they put me through a whole nother ringer of like shit, 10, 12 tests, passed all that shit. But anyway, so then I didn't really play towards the end, and then that was it. Damn.
So what's Aldridge been up to since leaving the NBA?
For me, it was more like, shit, let's figure this shit out. Let's kind of like move around, do one trip, you'll be good to go. So I did Spain and did that one trip, and then now, man, I just be doing that. So it's like traveling the world, going to like different places and just talking to people, hosting camps and stuff.
Do you ever see yourself coaching or working in a front office?
I've thought about front office, where I feel like I've learned what's needed to have a good team and what pieces are needed to, you know, make a team go. So I feel like I've definitely thought about front office.
So what's the deal with his perception? Why don't more people hold him in a high regard? Some viewed him as soft for not playing in the paint more from 2008 to 2015. I mean, Aldridge did boast shooting percentages of 41% from 10 to 16 feet and 42% from 16 to the three-point line. Another problem was his teams never won with him as the first option, and at some points, it was hard to tell if he even wanted to be a second option. During his prime years, Aldridge had multiple co-stars, Brandon Roy in the first part of his career, then Damian Lillard, and finally Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio. While he never had any major problems with them, I'm told that Aldridge also failed to build any meaningful relationships either with them. Lastly, he never had that look-at-me personality most NBA stars have. And he only played in a big market with New York at the tail end of his career, spending most years in smaller markets of Portland and San Antonio. As for his Hall of Fame chances, well, some people think that he has a strong case for it, and he'll be eligible for it in 2026. So if you're watching this video then, and he's in, spam the comments and I'll notice. And if not, well then just continue on while we go on to the next person. Since we're on the topic of Portland, let's talk about my man Zebo. Some younger fans might not know much about Zach Randolph, except what happens to bullies where he's from. Zebo always had an old school style to his game, never making flashy passes.
You look at a guy who's not, jumping 45 inches in the air and dunking on people, and not the fastest, not the quickest.
Grizzlies get to it. Zebo. He doesn't dunk.
It's like slow motion.
And for his height and position, he'd never dunked much. In only 9 games ever has he dunked twice in a game. And he has never ever dunked 3 times in any NBA game.
He's been so inconsistent. Here's Randolph. What? Did he just dunk the basketball? He just dunked the basketball.
He had an excellent mid-range game too. Sometimes he would hit threes, but not consistently. Although if he played today, I'm sure he would be able to knock down more three-pointers. While his defense was lacking, he was a great rebounder, both defensively and offensively. And he was strong. Just ask Perkins and Blake Griffin.
Another technical.
Oh, and they better get him under control.
Perkins. Looks like Griffin locks him up and then tries to pull him down. And then Zach falls over.
While his skill set was distinct, it fit perfect with the grit and grind Grizzlies in the early to mid 2010s. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Everything was rough about Zach Randolph. His play style, attitude, and even his upbringing. Growing up in a single-parent home in Indiana, young Zebo had a rough childhood. His family was poor, and he was once caught stealing a pair of pants and had to spend time in juvie because of it. Like a lot of other talented athletes, the only place he could have escaped from all the turmoil was the court. He was a solid talent in high school and a great freshman in college. but he was rough around the edges. He decided to go to the NBA after one season with the Michigan State Spartans because he wanted to support his family. Z-Bo was still young and kinda wild, so he fit right in with Portland. And remember, this was the Jailblazers era. The team was full of guys who were known for getting into it with their opponents on the court and a whole lot of trouble off the court. While Zach didn't see much playing time in his rookie year, he made headlines after his fight with teammate Ruben Patterson. However, Randolph's potential began to shine through once he made it to the starting lineup for the Blazers.
He was averaging like 20 and 10, but soon as you played, like you came right in and filled the void, like 20 and 10. I was like, oh shit, he here.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer. I knew just for the damn near for the rest of your career, you was gonna get 20 and 10.
By his third season, he fully emerged, averaging over 20 points and 10 rebounds per game, and earning the NBA's Most Improved Player award. While he established himself individually in the mid-2000s, his team wasn't doing all that good. Advanced stats were becoming popular, and among stat hounds and media members, many accused Z-Bo of putting up empty stats on a bad team. Bleacher Report even did an entire piece trying to debunk that narrative. In the late 2000s, he first got traded to the Knicks, then to the Clippers, where he still put up good numbers with little fanfare. Then, in 2009, Z-Bo got news that he was being traded to the team he averaged the most points against.
You know who you average your most points against, one team in your career?
The Grizzlies.
Yeah, what was it about?
The family and the friends.
At the time, few believed he could revitalize his career in Memphis, with many viewing him as a liability, because of his past behavior and all the empty stats talk. But with his father passing away during that period, Z-Bo's mindset changed. He was determined to prioritize his career and make the most of his talents. He embraced his role and started playing the best basketball of his life and became the Grizzlies' leader.
When you came in there, you felt what y'all had going on. The city rocked with y'all.
Coaches, and they used to tell me, and the players, man, like they didn't want to come and play. Like they don't want to come here. They scared to come play in these joints. Like, when you was coming to the Forum, it was you got to tie them up tight. Like it's like on. Like you know what I mean. Like it ain't gonna be easy. So get your rest. And we was ready, man.
Under Randolph's leadership, the Grizzlies underwent a transformation, embodying a gritty, hard-working ethos that came to be known as grit and grind.
Old man game is Zach Randolph, and what he does, it's all about inches and all about getting in position where you don't have to use athleticism, where the rim, the body, the basketball, your teammates all become helpful in getting your shot off.
Randolph's commitment to improving his game and supporting his teammates paid off as he earned his first All-Star selection and led the Grizzlies to their first ever playoff series victory. While the team never won a ring during this period, alongside the early 2000s Kings and mid-2000s Suns, they're one of the most popular teams to never do so. Z-Bo made the All-Star team, helped revitalize Memphis, and turned around his reputation completely during these years.
Man, just like you said, just being able to relate. We can relate. We can relate to these people. To these folks. So, just that and being a blessing. Because you give a blessing, you receive a blessing. That's how I feel.
All in all, Z-Bo had a pretty interesting career, to say the least. I mean, he's been known to fight teammates, beef with multiple other big men, and also had some, let's say, interesting rumors about him. But on the flip side, he's also known for paying other people's bills, giving money to teammates, and helping cancer patients in recovery. Z-Bo is a layered person. When you're done with this video, of course, I recommend you watch the 54 to City documentary about Z-Bo's time with the Grizzlies. In 2021, Randolph became the first player in Grizzlies history to have his jersey number retired, showing just how important he is to the city of Memphis. Oh, and he's also running a rap label. He actually started Endless Entertainment while he was still playing in 2016, with Marcus Head Howell. Moneybagg Yo was the first artist to join the label, and since then he's become a star. Endless expanded to include artists like Big 30 and Big Homie G, who also achieved Billboard success. And Z-Bo's also still a part of the Grizzlies organization as an advisor. Will he ever give some advice to Ja? Only time will tell. I swear it was just yesterday that DeMarcus Cousins was becoming the next dominant NBA center. He was the guy that was supposed to make being a center cool again, not Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid. But times have changed. Sure, young fans may think that he isn't on the same level as today's modern centers. But let me tell you, Cousins was for sure one of the first modern centers. He could grab rebounds, run the floor, take the ball coast to coast, and dunk over basically everybody. He had Jokic-like dimes in the post, and Boogie was even shooting threes before Cat. However, where Cousins truly shined was in the low post, where he displayed unmatched skills and finesse. His footwork, strength, and ability to finish around the rim made him a dominant force in the paint. So what happened to this man? Did the injuries zap all of his talent like the Monstars? Is he being blackballed by the league? Will he ever play again in the NBA? I have to be anticlimactic here. Most people know why Boogie's career didn't go as it was supposed to. I got 2 words for you. Sacramento and Kings, and worst franchise ever. Okay, it was more than 2 words, but you get the point. And okay, fine. It wasn't 100% Sacramento's fault. Boogie wasn't the most mature guy coming into the league. He had anger issues, was known for throwing an elbow or 2 on the court, and some may have deemed him uncoachable early in his career. But he was so talented. His ceiling was enormous. Boogie was a diamond in the rough, and it was the Kings' job to polish him. While the man was playing great right out the gate, the Kings struggled with mismanagement and failed draft picks, hindering Boogie's development. Cousins feuded with the coaching staff all the time until the Kings hired Coach Mike Malone.
Nuggets, Boogie Cousins is in the house, hugging it out with his former coach, Mike Malone, and look, all is well.
Not only did Cousins like Malone, and not only did he thrive in his system, making the first All-Star team in his career, but he helped the Kings win, comparatively to the previous season. They weren't making the playoffs back in those years, ever. But at the start of the next season, the Kings fired Mike Malone because of a losing streak, even though Boogie, their top player, was injured.
I hate it had to end this way. He has my respect. I feel he's a great coach.
Losing continued in Sacramento. Cousins was always a passionate guy. He loved to win. When he didn't, he would get frustrated real quick. And the Kings were, well, you know, horrible. So Boogie was frustrated a lot.
It's ridiculous. It's obvious what's being done out here. It's on a nightly basis. I hope the world can see now what's really going on out here, because it's getting ridiculous.
He played great in the 2016 through 17 season, averaging around 27 and 11. But still, the King sucked, no matter how good he was. Organizational turmoil, lots of drama, and constant coaching changes. At one point, they did have the best center in the league and Mike Malone on their payroll. But while the Nuggets turned that into a championship, the Kings blew the thing up in less than a season and a half. A trade to New Orleans Pelicans in 2017 paired Cousins with AD, seemingly creating an equivalent of the Twin Towers of Duncan and Robinson for the modern age.
But then getting traded, going to New Orleans, playing with AD, was it kind of like a weight lifted? Like you kind of out of a bad situation into a newer situation that you had some positive outlook on?
In the beginning, I'm just like, why would you trade me with AD and we like play the same position?
Yeah,
like, and obviously, AD was younger. He was a younger talent, so it just didn't really make sense. Like, so, you know, once I kind of spoke with the organization and they kind of told me what their plan was, I'm like, well, damn, this could really be something special, because throughout my career so far, this is the most talented guy I've ever teamed up with.
Right.
And all I've ever wanted in my career was a guy that I know I can go to war with.
Exactly.
Cousins slimmed down, got into the best shape of his career, and started playing even better than before. That season, he was averaging 25 and 13 with more than 5 assists. More importantly, he fit perfectly besides AD. But as luck would have it, the success wasn't long-lasting. Cousins' time in New Orleans was cut short by a season-ending Achilles injury. Cousins went to the Warriors to team up with, you know, but he got hurt again, just like KD and Clay. So even his ring-chasing season fell through. Anything else of note? An ACL tear while playing pickup before the season ensured he didn't play a game with the Lakers, although they did give him a ring. He reunited with Mike Malone in Denver for a year, playing a backup role to Jokic. However, he never made a full comeback. And after no one from the leagues came calling, DeMarcus played in Puerto Rico, putting up monster numbers. He still believed that he was the 3rd best center in the league behind Jokic and Embiid, but he still wasn't getting any calls from NBA teams. As of 2024, DeMarcus has said he's done with the league and that he's no longer interested in playing in the NBA. He told Hoops Hype that this part of his life is over and that he's looking forward to the next chapter. He last played for the Taiwan Bear Leopards in the T1 League, and if you're on YouTube, you've probably seen that he started making his way to plenty of different channels recently. While Cousins has no regrets about his basketball career, it's still unfortunate how his story turned out. Boogie has not only lost his best years to injuries, but has also lost millions of dollars due to injuries. $150 million to be exact. And sadly, this isn't exclusive to professional athletes. Each year, millions of people get injured in the workplace, resulting in billions lost because of it. And remember, Boogie is lucky. NBA players have millions, plus the best medical staff paid to help them. But for everyday people like you and I, getting injured on the job can take away our income, leaving us with piles of medical bills, struggling to figure out the next step. But it doesn't have to be that way. There's a team out there that can help you, who also happens to be the sponsor of today's video. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. These guys know how to win, and they win, like, a lot. With over 1,000 lawyers, they've helped clients recover over $20 billion. And yeah, that's billions with a B. For example, one of their lawyers, Nick Russo, helped a New York veteran win a $6.8 million verdict after being hit by a bus while driving his moped. Some of their other lawyers like Matt Morgan and Keith Mitnick won $8 million for a woman who was hit by a drunk driver and had to undergo multiple surgeries. Whether you've been injured in a car accident, experienced medical malpractice, or a workplace mishap, they can help you get the compensation you deserve if you become their client. Worried about the cost of legal representation? Well, don't be. Morgan & Morgan doesn't charge any fees unless you win. You can click the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code on the screen to see if Morgan & Morgan will be able to fight for you. All you need to do is enter your basic information, describe your case, and submit your form, and you'll get a free case evaluation. You can submit your claim and communicate with your legal team, all from your smartphone, making the process very simple. This convenience, coupled with the firm's extensive experience and proven track record, is why Morgan & Morgan has become a trusted name in legal representation. Because when it comes to protecting your rights, Morgan & Morgan is a name you can trust. ISO Joe. Now, this man could ball. He's one of the clutchest guys that played in the last decade. If you're down in the fourth and you need a go-ahead shot, just get the ball to Joe and, yeah, let him ISO. And just like LaMarcus, he's one of 50 players in league history to score over 20,000 points. And also, just like LaMarcus, Johnson might be one of the players that will not end up in the Hall of Fame. He also has the same number of All-Star appearances as guys with way more notoriety, like Grant Hill, Tracy McGrady, and Scottie Pippen. There are more than 800 game winners in NBA history. Michael Jordan has 9. He leads all the players. In the second spot, there's Kobe. I mean, yeah, makes sense. Bryant was known for having ice in his veins. And you know who shares the spot with him? Yeah, that's right. Joe Johnson has made 8 game winners during his time in the league, 5 of them while playing in Brooklyn. Despite his impressive scoring numbers and clutch performances, Johnson's popularity remained relatively low compared to some of his peers. You won't see many lists having him as a top 5 guard of his generation. So what was it? Was he too low-key like Aldridge? Was he just a stat filler? Or something else? Well, let's see. One question for you guys. Do you remember Joe Johnson in a Boston Celtics jersey? Yeah, me neither. Still, he was selected by the Celtics with the 10th pick. He didn't stick around for too long though. During his rookie season, he was traded to the Suns and instantly started improving. In the first 2 seasons, his numbers increased across the board. By the 3rd season, the Suns promoted assistant Mike D'Antoni to head coach. Joe became a starter and broke out. He averaged nearly 17, 5, and 4. Next year, the Suns acquired Steve Nash, and Johnson had one of his most efficient seasons, averaging about 17 points per game on an impressive 48% from the three-point line. The Suns were one of the first teams to play modern-style basketball. They shot threes like crazy, played quickly, and Joe was a huge part of that.
Do you sort of take credit for where we are with basketball right now because of those Suns teams?
I think the Phoenix Suns should take credit. You know, it's like I'm part of it, proud to be part of it. But without Steve, it wouldn't have worked. Without Joe Johnson, it wouldn't have worked. Without Amari, it wouldn't have worked. Without Sean Marion, you know, I go on and on and on.
He was a major contributor to the Suns' playoff run that year, until he suffered one of the, nastiest injuries of all time. Just thinking of a broken orbital gives me the creeps. In Atlanta, he became a primary scoring option, and he also became an all-star. But because he was on the Hawks, it's also a point in his career where the problem started. Joe and co didn't turn the situation around. Hawks teams during this period, while solid, were never like real contenders. They won games and had good seasons, but were never taken seriously. So despite averaging 24 and 5, Joe wasn't being mentioned in the same breath as guys like Kobe, AI, Wade, or Allen, or most of the other star guards at the time. In 2012, Joe went to the Nets, who recently moved to Brooklyn and were looking to compete right away. In the 2013 through 14 season, the Nets went all out to create a super team. These were all the rage back in those days too. They brought in Pierce, KG, and Darren Williams so they could have a chance at the title. Joe was still a reliable scorer. He was still making all-star teams, and of course, hitting game winners. But even though this team was supposed to be the next big thing, they never ended up even getting close to a title. However, ISO Joe did get a new nickname though.
Don't be Joe Jesus, as we like to call him. Because when you call on him, he might not be there when you need, when you call on him, but he's there when you need him. Joe Jesus.
Towards the latter stages of his career, Joe had stints with the Miami Heat, Utah Jazz, and Houston Rockets before leaving the league at the age of 37. So what did ISO Joe do after the league? Well, he just continued playing. In March of next year, Joe signed with Ice Cube's Big 3 League. That year, he won the league MVP and the championship with the Triplets. In 2021, he won another Big Three MVP before retiring the following season. At the age of 40, Johnson returned to the league, signing a 10-day contract with the Celtics. He even managed to make an appearance in a single game, playing 2 minutes and scoring 2 points against the Cavs. And he even returned to the Big Three in 2023 too. What can I say? The man has a thing for comebacks. And what are the odds of Joe becoming a Hall of Famer? Well, as per Basketball Reference, he has the same chances as Aldridge. He's one spot below him on their list. Nonetheless, some fans and some of his peers think he should make it. Reggie Miller praised Johnson, saying he had ice water in his veins when it came to closing out games.
Is Joe Johnson a Hall of Famer?
Oh, good one.
7-time All-Star, 20,000 points.
Ooh, down the road. 4th or 5th time, the Hall comes a-knocking, yes. ISO Joe and ice water in his veins.
Oh, and Basketball Reference only had Reggie's Hall of Fame probability at 31%, so you never know. Ever since his college days, Rondo has been known as a hard-nosed point guard, a great facilitator that makes his teammates better, rebounds better than most players at his position, and plays great perimeter defense when needed. At Kentucky, he was the first player to lead the team in rebounds and assists in school history. Rondo was basically Jason Kidd without a reliable jump shot and Westbrook without the dunks. Back in the days, he had stat lines like 19, 15, and 14, 29, 18, and 13, 18, 17, and 20. Yeah, Rondo also had huge hands. At only 6'1", he had the same hand length as Wilt, and Wilt was an entire foot taller than Rondo.
Dude, Rondo's hands are huge. You shake his hand, do not look down.
Really?
Trust me.
John, great job today.
Allowing him to grab rebounds at a much higher rate for a point guard. He could also make deflections and steal the ball a lot more easily. And of course, he was mainly known for his high basketball IQ.
I have been on the sideline and watched you point out to an opposing player, oh, no, you're supposed to be over there.
I like to actually try to mess with the coach's mind as well, understanding what they were trying to call or they're trying to disguise a play, knowing just from the setup that they're in to be able to disguise it, call it out to my guys and give them the answer to the test, basically.
All these skills made Rondo a point god during his best years. Some days you can mistake him for Chris Paul.
God's my favorite point guard, Chris Paul, man. Chris Paul, man. What's up, man? You ain't Chris Paul?
Nah, who are you?
Although I don't think Rondo would really appreciate it. Although best known for his years in Boston, Rajon Rondo was actually selected 21st by the Phoenix Suns in 2006. But GM Danny Ainge really liked his play style and traded for him.
The Phoenix Suns select Rajon Rondo from the University of Kentucky.
After a relatively quiet rookie season, Rondo got his big break when the Celtics traded for Ray Allen and Kevin Garnett to form the first modern Big Three.
Paul recently said on Draymond's podcast that you went to Ticket University early on.
I did.
What did that mean? I did. What did that mean, and what did you learn?
Man, I learned so much. He was the one guy that when I did fuck up, he always called me, but like, yo, you was right or you was wrong, and he always kept it real with me, and I appreciate that from a vet standpoint, because a lot of people wouldn't tell me the truth. You know what I mean? They would probably continue to kiss my ass or not hold me accountable to the level I need to be held accountable to if I wanted to be great.
Number 9 soaked up the game from his all-star vets and quickly improved his game. Between 2008 and 2010, he helped the Celtics go to 1 Eastern Conference Finals, 2 NBA Finals, and win their 17th Larry O'Brien trophy with Rondo as their starting point guard. By 2010, he became an all-star and one of the top passers in the league. And by 2013, he was having 20-plus consecutive games with 10 assists and being voted as an all-star starter. Unfortunately, that season, he tore his ACL.
I was still playing until that point. Right. Now I went back into the locker room. The doc came back. So I go back to lay on the training table, and he does the knee check. He's like, "Oh, you're not playing." I'm like, "What?" I'm surprised. I'm like, "I'm about to get this triple double. We're about to win." My whole mindset is already in the game. So I go get the MRI. We get back in the car, and I look at the doc like, "Is this true? Who said this? Like, you don't even know. You don't even have the disc."
So where'd you get it? It was I don't remember specifically, but it was being reported that there was a torn ACL.
He did make a comeback, but he wasn't the same. And shortly after, he was traded to Dallas.
10 seconds into the third quarter is his third foul of the game. And Harden and Rondo got a little bit tied up afterward.
Then to Sacramento.
Look at Rondo saying to Marcus, don't worry about the middle. You go guard the corner.
Then to the Pelicans. By the late 2010s, he wasn't an all-star anymore. However, he was still one of the better point guards in the NBA. And in the summer of 2019, he went to his former rivals, the Lakers, to play with LeBron and AD.
I was in Louisville, standing in the living room in front of the TV, and I was watching him play, and I was like, if I get a chance to play with him, I'm gonna win. Like, he's been to the finals, I think 8, 9 times in a row, and I was like, if I could play with LeBron, I'll win another championship.
After winning a title in the bubble, Rondo became only the second player in league history to win titles with the Celtics and the Lakers. Who was the first? Well, a guy named Clyde Lovellette, a guy your father or my father probably never heard of. And I know my dad watches these videos, so let's see if he says anything. Lovellette is actually a 4-time All-Star and a Hall of Famer, who has one of the best post-game press photos I've ever seen. After winning it all in LA, Rondo spent a few years bouncing around the league, and then 2022, he called it quits.
And burnout.
Have we seen the last of Rajon Rondo in the NBA?
Absolutely.
It's official. You done?
Yeah, I'm done. I I gotta spend time. I'd rather spend time with my kids than
we see you enjoy that, dog.
We
Making
did.
$200 million, and I'm, telling them certain things. They're like, I'm gonna go with my kids over here.
When you sit back and look out over it, what do you think?
What a time. You know what I mean? Like, it was definitely something that I would never took for granted, while I was in the game. I loved every minute of it, and I learned so much in this game, and it's made me the man who I am today. For me, it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was about when I first was introduced to this game, my mentors, Mike Bibby, Derek Anderson. It was just their free time in the summertime.
While Rondo's peak was relatively short, he still made 4 All-Star teams, 4 All-Defensive teams, and 1 All-NBA team. And he led the league in assists 3 times. Oh, and he was one of the only 4 players in league history to average 11 assists in at least 4 seasons. That's a lot of 4s. Not bad for a first-round pick. Ainge knew back then and now on how to scout. So what has Rondo been up to in these last 2 years? Well, he's been staying busy. You can catch him on some of the most popular NBA podcasts, talking about his career and analyzing today's game. That's probably just practice for Rondo, who's back in college too, and you won't believe what he's studying.
Can you tell me about that flip? I mean, this is the guy who didn't want to talk to the media. Now he's working to be in the media.
I'm working to be in the media, learning about the media, the change that it's made in this days, the world we're in today. It's been fun. And being in class at 37 versus 18, I just can tell you now I'm paying a lot more attention.
So besides attending classes with the Kentucky prospects like Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepard, Rondo has also been busy running his own AAU team, Rondo Elite. And someday we may see him on an NBA court, just in a different role.
I want to, but obviously where I'm at in life now, that's why I kind of been on the pause. You know what I mean? Like, I got a teenage daughter. She just got her license plate yesterday, so she on the road, man. So shit like that going on. I'm in school now. I'm about to finish my degree, hopefully next spring, 2025, and then I'm ready to go into that level. But like I said, right now, obviously kid focused, getting my degree, continue to challenge myself, learn more and more daily things. And actually, I appreciate being in college now than I did obviously when I was just locked in trying to get to the league.
Paul Millsap, while he's far from forgotten, I think many of us don't really remember how good he was just a decade ago. While he spent his best playing days in Atlanta playing for a small market team, for a large chunk of his career, he played in Denver and Utah. But those also didn't really add to his popularity either, with them both being small market teams as well. He wasn't too vocal after the games either. I can't really remember any soundbite from him. Even 2K recently lost the rights to Millsap, and I haven't really heard an outcry to get him back into the game, but still, he was a heck of a player. For starters, Millsap was strong. He could establish position against bigger defenders and finish through contact. He had a bag of post moves that included hooks, up and unders, and fadeaways. Later in his career, recognizing the evolving nature of the game, Millsap developed solid ball handling skills for an undersized forward. This allowed him to attack off the dribble, create scoring opportunities for himself, and make plays for his teammates. He was also a solid rebounder. Being an undersized power forward his whole career, Millsap compensated with relentless energy and a commitment to crashing the boards. He constantly worked to position himself for rebounds, both offensively and defensively. As his career moved along, he became an even better three-point shooter. In his 30s, playing with the Nuggets, he was shooting well above league average. And all these skills made him a 4-time All-Star and allowed him to do things like drop 11 points in less than 30 seconds.
Wants 3, fires it up, 3, 3, short, rebound, Millsap, yes!
So how did Millsap get a start? Opting to stay close to home, Millsap enrolled at Louisiana Tech. He continued to excel, leading in the Western Athletic Conference and the nation in rebound for 3 consecutive seasons. During his 3 years in college, he averaged more than 18 points and nearly 13 rebounds and 2 blocks. He would end up declaring for the draft, hoping his college resume would be enough to get him selected as a late first rounder. But he fell all the way down to the 47th spot. where he was selected by the Jazz. He came into the league under the legendary coach Jerry Sloan, who had a reputation for not playing young guys, which wasn't completely true. Millsap was getting more and more minutes each season, playing mainly as a backup to Carlos Boozer. With Boozer's departure before the 2010 through 2011 season, Millsap became a starter. Despite the team undergoing a rebuilding phase, Millsap thrived as a focal point of the offense, averaging 17 a game while showcasing an improved outside shooting touch. By 2013, Millsap left Utah as a free agent and signed with the Hawks for 2 years. He would actually spend 4 years in Atlanta and have the best seasons of his career. With the Hawks, Millsap averaged 17 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and nearly 2 steals and a block. He made the All-Star team all 4 years, and was part of the team that broke Hawks history by winning 60 games in the regular season in 2015. But while the Hawks were winning games and finishing near the top of the Eastern Conference, outside of Hawks fans, not a lot of people viewed them as real contenders during these years. They were ranked pretty low in viewership and weren't even taken seriously by the media.
My sweet Atlanta Hawks, you leave us with fond memories, Hawks bros, Sir Foster, and Good D. You leave us with great heartache, like the Cavs hitting a zillion threes. But goodbyes are not forever, and goodbyes are not the end. They simply mean we'll miss you.
While they did make the conference finals in 2015, they were easily swept by LeBron and the Cavs. And during the 2017 offseason, Millsap left and signed a 3-year, $90 million contract with the Nuggets. During his stint with the Nuggets, his stats suffered a bit, averaging less than 15 points for the first time in 5 years. However, he gelled great with the team's young stars Jokic and Murray. In 2020, Millsap inspired the Nuggets to come back from a 3-1 deficit against the Clippers, who were the favorites to come out of the West that year. In the crucial Game 5, the Nuggets were trailing the Clippers when Millsap got into it with Marcus Morris.
He's in a foul down low, and Morris and Millsap.
As Millsap put it, that was the tipping point for him. The Clippers were trash-talking them the entire series, and so the Nuggets, yeah, they had had enough. After being down 17 with less than a minute and a half in the third quarter, the Nuggets managed to get back into the game and win the entire series in 7, in large part thanks to Millsap. Paul spent another year in Denver, and then after that, signing with the Brooklyn Nets in 2021. He would be traded in February of 2022 with Harden to the Sixers, where he would finish up his career. Yeah, Millsap did retire with little playoff success. He left the Nuggets just before they got really good. So what's he up to now? Since retiring from basketball, Millsap has returned to Atlanta and taken on a leadership role in one of his companies, Core 4 Athletics Complex, a training facility to support the development of athletes in Chamblee, Georgia. Millsap has also become an investor in Atlanta's latest professional sports team, the Atlanta Vibe, a pro volleyball team. And as a man with 3 daughters, Millsap's committed to helping as many female athletes as possible by providing opportunities to train at the highest level. I'll always remember Roy Hibbert as the guy who popularized the term verticality. I don't remember hearing about it much before Roy, and not much after him either. You see, Hibbert was a defensive center in the vein of Marcus Camby, Dwight Howard, and Rudy Gobert. He wasn't a hyper-athletic defender. He wouldn't just spring out of nowhere and slap layups into the third row often. Instead, he would plant his body in the lane, jump high in the spot, and use his, verticality to stop the offensive player. Over the first few years, his career improved immensely. In 2014, Hibbert seemed like he was on top of the NBA. He was the defensive anchor on one of the top teams in the league. He just earned his second All-Star selection. He also finished second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting and was selected in the All-Defensive Second Team. But by the end of that season, he was having scoreless nights, was getting benched at the end of games, and looked more like a guy on his way out of the league than an All-Star. And that would turn out to be true. And he was out of the league just a couple of years after that. So what happened to him? When Roy Hibbert received a scholarship from Georgetown, no one expected much. He was a legit 7'2", however, he was overweight and couldn't really run. At all. The first time his trainer put him on a treadmill, Hibbert couldn't even handle the lowest speeds. In his first season, Hibbert looked stiff. He was averaging less than 4 boards while averaging 2 turnovers and 2 fouls. No one could imagine him becoming a good college player, let alone an NBA All-Star. But Roy got better. He worked on his body and skills. And by the end of his 4th year in college, he was first team All Big East and a consensus second team All-American. That increased his draft stock quickly. Indiana needed a center after Jermaine O'Neal left, so they picked Hibbert at 17. Again, Hibbert struggled as a rookie, but again, he improved steadily. By his 3rd season, he became an All-Star in a much weaker conference, but still, he averaged 13, 9, and 2. And now we need to take a quick second to explain how something called verticality helped him. This was Hibbert's bread and butter.
See, that's the new wave fast break.
Hibbert's defensive technique involved him, jumping vertically, with his arms expanded upward without initiating contact with the offensive player.
Again, Roy Hibbert dropping back.
It allowed Hibbert to contest shots while minimizing the risk of committing a foul. And yeah, those were 3 examples of verticality from the same game. Hibbert used to spam this move all the time. Hibbert seemed to reach his peak during the 2013-14 season, where he earned his second All-Star selection and was considered a front-runner for the Defensive Player of the Year award for a majority of the season. However, his performance took a huge downturn in the latter part of the season and into the playoffs. His first-round performance was, well, in 7 games, he averaged only 5 points and 4 rebounds per game, shooting a dismal 37% from the field.
Yeah. Roy Hibbert. Good Lord, I'm trying to be nice. Roy Hibbert looks worse than Kwame Brown.
Teams used big men who could stretch the floor and take Hibbert outside the paint, limiting his ability to grab rebounds and play his style of defense. They also limited him to 4 scoreless games that playoffs, including 2 consecutive games in the first round. After that showing, Hibbert declined quickly, which had to do with more than a couple of different factors. Refs started officiating verticality differently, so Hibbert started being called all the time for defensive fouls. Teams started exploiting his lack of mobility, and his skill set wasn't fit for today's three-point shooting league. And it looks like he developed further confidence issues. Hibbert visited a sports psychologist many times throughout his career, but even therapy wasn't helping. After Indiana, Hibbert went to LA, Charlotte, Milwaukee, and Denver, where his playing time and productivity dwindled. In 2018, he officially announced his retirement from professional basketball, concluding a career that spanned 662 games with averages of 10 points, 6 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks per game. So what's going on with Hibbert's career post-NBA, beyond his appearance on the Eric Andre Show?
Roy Hibbert, welcome to
Roy,
the show.
first question.
Roy did have some acting chops, appearing in 3 episodes of Parks and Recreation in the 2010s. But while he hasn't continued acting, he's still a part of the entertainment biz in a way. If you like watching NBA content, like my channel or Jimmy High Roller or Dom2K, then you may want to check out Hibbert's channel. He offers analysis on various aspects of the games, including player movements, defensive strategies, and offensive plays. Basically, Roy may not be playing anymore, but the man knows basketball. So if you like this type of content, then you should give him a watch. I often wonder, how will we remember some of these lesser all-stars? Guys that still made an impact on the game, but aren't in the top 5, top 10, or even top 20 conversations. I mean, think about it. Without Rondo, the big 3 Celtics may not get their ring. Without Paul Millsap, the Nuggets probably lose that matchup when they're down 3-1, and that may change the trajectory of their franchise. Will people over the years forget about these all-stars and their impact? Probably. But this is my attempt to help us remember. A video that will last forever and can be watched for generations and generations to come.